I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, May the 13th, brought to you in part by Livestock Risk Services. Dakota Moss and all these agents that work right along with him, they are your LRP specialists, guys. Check out the protection levels. They're better than what you think. The levels you can be protected on your cattle you got turned out this summer. See exactly what it's going to cost to get those protection levels, and then relax this summer. Be nice to your kids and your wife, and enjoy the summer, knowing that you're going to make the lion's share of that money that you've already got coming, guys. Check them out at livestockriskservices.com. Also, Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. Of course, we've been talking about it. Today is the Feeder Flash Beaver Clash Graze Out Special. Looking at 5,000 head for their cattle auction here today on Tuesday. I'm headed up that way. They're going to have about 1,000 calves, most of them weighing 400 to 600 pounds, about 80% of them weaned. A few stick out deals on the calves. I got 350 head of 4 to 6 weights off one deal. They're 60 days weaned. 130 head of real fancy ranch raised 4-weight calves, and they're going to be off the cow. Another deal of 80 head of 4 weights. I mean, they got a lot of light calves there, guys, and they'll be long time weaned, guys. So lots of fancy calves there. I haven't had a lot of calves there for a few months. They're going to have a lot of yearlings. 700 head of yearling heifers, most of them weighing 600 to 800 pounds. There's going to be 7 to 8 load lots of them in there. They've got 1 load of replacement quality heifers weighing in the 7s. Be really fancy, guys, if you're looking for something like that. Then 3,000 head of feeder steers. Most of them weighing 800 to 1,100 pounds. They are going to have 300 head, those big steers right off the wheat like they've had the last 2 or 3 weeks off the Radcliffe and the R&R deal there. They're going to be weighing 900 to 1,200 pounds, but I mean, just the single source northern quality is just outstanding, guys. Those cattle are really going to be something to see there, and something to feed if you're looking to do that. They've got about 500 head of 8 weights coming in off the Cameron cattle deal there, so that'll be fancy too. But they'll probably have about 300 cows after they get done with the feeder sale, and they do have a couple of drags of running aged pairs and bred cows. So check them out on DVAuction.com if you can't make it up to Beaver today on Tuesday. I'm going to be up there. Come up and visit with me. But be a good sale. Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. Cattle and stocks are attached at the hip. So we talked about the weekend that Trump had, and of course the Trump haters, they're just so frustrated. They're just gritting their teeth because everything that he said he was going to do, he's doing and more. I mean, all he did this last weekend was get another hostage home that they thought was maybe going to get killed in confinement there. He got a deal going with China. They're going to spend the next 3 months kind of negotiating the deal, but they have both pulled their tariffs back. China's pulled theirs all the way back to 10% on our goods coming in. We've got ours at 30%. We're going to kind of try to level things out with the trade with them. We closed the border for cattle coming in from Mexico due to the screwworm and the lack of Mexican government doing anything to help contain it, or to even help us with our efforts of trying to contain it. So, you know, it's just been kind of a busy time there. Still working to try to get some peace going between the different outfits that are fighting wars all around the globe. But I tell you what, that China deal and just the initial amount of the tariffs that have come down, and the fact that China is wanting to get a deal done and they're not clashing with us anymore, just that caused your stock market to go up 1,160 points on Monday. It's higher than Liberation Day when Trump first announced the tariffs. It's higher than that. Everybody thought the world was going to come to an end. Just hang with Trump. He'll take care of us, guys. Anyway, your cattle, of course, went up big. Of course, they were also armed with the lack of the Mexican cattle coming in for at least the next 2 weeks and probably next few months. But we'll see what happens with that. But cattle just surged, especially feeder cattle. I mean, to the gains that we don't normally see, you know, $5 and $6 gains on top of all-time record highs. It's unbelievable. You think this thing may go all the way to the moon. You know, there's some things out there that could put a hold back on it. It's getting really dry in the northern plains and parts of the Midwest. If corn starts to get high, that could spoil the party a little bit. And I talked to a friend of mine in central Nebraska, and he said it's getting very, very serious. If they don't get some rain pretty darn quick, they're going to be in big trouble around there. So you got to be thinking about that. And then it's just going to be impossible, and I've been telling you guys that. I want you to know that it's going to be impossible to keep these cash feeders at the levels that we've achieved here as we go on into the classical summertime between Memorial Day and Labor Day, because there's just not going to be enough cattle moving. You've got to have cattle moving and selling high to keep those index levels high, which supports your lofty feeder cattle futures. And when we don't have any cattle, cattle are turned out in the spring and the summertime. That's what they're for. They're turned out to eat grass. And so most of the cattle are going to be turned out. Now there will be a few advertised annual specials at some of our bigger, better sale barns. And whenever they do come in there, they'll sell out of sight. But there's going to be a lot of little sales. These sales are going to keep having auctions every week. And there's going to be plain cattle in there. There's going to be used cattle in there. Be trader cattle in there. And some of them are going to weigh down on those index levels. But like I said, when we get to the big advertised specials, they'll sell really well, and they'll be the buyers will all flock to them because they're going to have some decent numbers of cattle. And I foolishly told you on our last visit that Joplin's weanback special was going to be in January, but it's coming up Thursday, June the 19th. I think that's going to be your first big advertised summer special, is that weanback sale at Joplin. And it'll be a good one, and they'll sell awfully good. But every other little sale barn around the country is going to keep having sales, guys, and they're not going to be able to have as many of those good fresh cattle there that the buyers really want to lay into. So just be thinking about that. Now, if you've got some grass you want to stock, you're looking at getting your hands on some lightweight cattle there, call my buddy Ellison Carter at Ellison Carter Cattle Company. That's in Santo, Texas, which is just outside of Weatherford, Texas there. He can put you some cattle together out of Central Texas, guys. He sent me what he shipped over the weekend, and I mean, they're high, but that look pretty good as a delivered price in comparison to some of these big quotes I give you around. How about steers and bulls, lightweights, guys? 320-pound bunch there. They were fancy, and bring 437 delivered. Now that's mostly into Oklahoma, maybe all the way up into western Kansas or the Texas Panhandle, but those are delivered prices. That's the way he gives that to me. If you're somewhere different, you can extrapolate from there what it would cost for you. Had a load weighed 3 1/4, steers and bulls all black, bring 398 delivered. Load weighed 360 pounds, and they were fancy, really nice calves. 422 delivered to your pens. About a load that weighed 420 got shipped out for 365 delivered, and a load weighed 555 at 318. Now these would be Central Texas calves there. Pretty good kind, you know. Some of them, you just tell him what you want. He can get you whatever you want, you know. If you can stand a ticket ear, he'll bring you a ticket ear. If you can't, he can get those too. If they got to be all blacks or all blacks and Charolais, mostly what I would think is just order some cattle that are solid colored, and you're going to like them pretty well. Look at the heifers. Bunch weighed 290, delivered for 408, and really top quality there. Another fancy bunch weighed 345, delivered for 390. He had an order for some replacement quality heifers Weighed 455. He got them put together and delivered for 394. Load weight 465 at 358. Load of heifers at 495 for 332. Load weight 555 at 321. Load of plainer heifers weighed 560 at 310. Some yearling heifers, all yearlings, 660 pounds for 288. And some all black heifers weighed 695, be yearlings too, at 265. So if you're interested in that, get a hold of them. You can find them at ellisandcartercattle.com on your website there. Let's talk about your futures to start the week out. June live cattle up 215 at 216.82. August was up 202 at 211.60. Back months on live cattle up $1.50 to $2. Now the feeder cattle is what really jumped, guys. May feeders up 512 at 303.10. August up 607. Boy, guys got cattle turned out for the summer. He's thinking, yeehaw. So 607 on the gain, closing at 306.37. Your back months were all up big. That's what I'm telling you guys. These protection levels are way up there if you want to get an LRP. Back months were up 377, up 607. July corn down 1 3/4 cents a bushel at 448. July beans up 19 1/2 at 1071 1/4. Hard red winter wheat for July down 9 1/2 cents a bushel at 508. Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade out of your 5-area feeding region totaled up 69,500, which is not terrible. That's a good movement. Not quite as good as the previous week at 81,600, but a little better than the same week a year ago of 68,300. Live sales of fat steers and heifers last week in the 5-area negotiated cash ranged 218 to 230. That was $5 to $6 higher. Your weighted average on live steers in the 5-area was 224.80. That was up 409 compared to the previous week's weighted average. Dress sales ranged from 352 to 363. That was $3 to $12 higher. Weighted average on dress steers was 356.06, up 669 from the previous week. As a whole, your Southern Plains market was steady to $2 higher from 218 to 220. Northern Plains $3 to $6 higher for the most part from 225 to 228. Which was mostly $5 higher on the dress price from 355 with a few up to 360. Now nationwide they sold 83,500 negotiated cash, which is good. You know, I like it to get up to 100,000 or close to it. Did that the previous week at 99,300. Same week a year ago, 83,700. Of the 83,500 we sold negotiated nationwide, 36% of them sold for a 15 to 30 day delivery. So that's the second week in a row they've sold quite a few cattle for a 2 to 4 week delivery. And so they're kind of ganging up. They're trying to get control of this market a little bit, guys. You want to be thinking about that. Negotiated grid sales last week totaled 40,000 head. Forward contract sales last week 35,500. And formula sales last week 245,600. Of the 4 out of 5 areas negotiated, the grand total for last week's movement: Iowa sold 26,500, pretty good. Nebraska 24,000. Kansas sold 8,200. Texas sold 10,800. The box beef cutout values gained ground to start the week. I tell you what, we've got to get these wholesale beef prices a little bit higher, guys, if we're going to keep this fat market going. Choice cuts up 217 at 348.14. Selects up 406 at 335.23. Slaughter just 99,000 on Monday estimated cattle slaughter. That is pitiful. That is 10,000 less than just last week and 16,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Limousine and Lim Flex may be a way to take your genetics, guys. They are concentrating on feed efficiency, improved marbling, superior yield grade, calving ease, Let Limousine and Limflex take you full circle. For more information, go to NALF.org. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index on DVAuction, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer 7-day moving average, ended on Monday after your sales had closed at 302.13. That was up 142. Latest CME cash feeder cattle index broke the $300 at 301.03. If you're looking for some cattle, guys, a little bit later this week, Clarinda Livestock Auction in Clarinda, Iowa is going to have a good run. They've got about 2,400 head, and it's going to be nearly all weaned fall calves. And the quality is outstanding in that part of the country, guys. They do have 2 loads of 8-weight yearlings in there, but other than that, it's going to be all weaned fall calves there. Talked to John Anderson. He said they're outstanding. Consignment there's Marty Richardson from Dearborn, Missouri. He's got 700 head of fancy weaned fall calves, guys. Going to be at Clarinda Livestock Auction, Clarinda, Iowa on Thursday. If you can't get there, get on to DVAuction.com. Call them early, get approved. Get in there where you can bid on them. Let's talk about your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards had 6,500. Good run for them. Feeder steers $4 to $6 higher. Feeder heifers $2 to $6 higher. And calves were mostly steady, but it's just higher every week, everywhere you look, guys. How about Joplin Regional Stockyards? They had 9,200. Feeder steers there from $3 to $15 higher. Feeder heifers run even. Steer calves $10 to $25 higher. Seems like it's every week. Heifer calves $4 to $15 higher. And I'm not going to argue with those trends. And how could you? Joplin was your National Beef Wire stick-out sale of the day. And I did leave the trends on there from last week's weighted average in comparison. And they're just straight up with what the trends the Federal State Market Reporter called those sales there. But look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central. And look at your best tested weights. Had 552 head of 4-weight steers. They averaged 457. Weighted average price 433.28. 1,122 head of 5-weight steers averaged 552 at 393.40. They had 791 head of the 6-weight steers. They averaged 642 at 351.60. 509 head of 7-weight steers. Now these were like $16, $17 higher. The 7-weight steers averaged 742. Weighted average price of $315.34. Wow. 1,062 head of 8-weight steers in Joplin averaged 829 at 293.95, and 566 head of the 9-weight steers averaged 929 at 276.37. Now the heifers, 693 head of 4-weight heifers averaged 458 at 384.49. 1,233 head of 5-weight heifers averaged 547 at 343.67. 707 head of the 6-weight heifers averaged 637 at 309.90. 341 head of the 7-weight heifers averaged 735 at 290.93. And 420 head of 8-weight heifers at JRS in Carthage, Missouri, they averaged 843 with a weighted average price of 264.39. Give you some individual quotes from around. How about Callaway Livestock Center up in central part of Missouri there at Kingdom City, Missouri? 64 steers weighed 851 at 311.75. Up in Northern Plains, the Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota, another DVAuction broadcaster there. They sold 128 steers, weighed 983, nearly a grand, at 286.50. But the most impressive quote that I saw, anywhere on Monday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of West Point Livestock Auction, the Shabins outfit there over in Nebraska. They sell 197 steers, weigh 910 pounds at $300.25. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.